Uh, not once, okay. Not once have you heard of any scandals during my administration. Of course, obviously, when somebody's running against me during this election, you're gonna hear all these different things, all this nonsense that they need in order to win their election. So uh, lots of things have changed, and Hawthorne is not the place that it used to be, and it's a much better place because of the teamwork of my council members. There's no I in team. It's a council that it took to change things. Things that I'm focusing on and will continue to focus on is safety for the community. Eliminating homelessness. We're all concerned with homelessness, and that's something that our city council has been tackling. And fixing our streets, that will always continue to be a priority for our city government. Bringing affordable housing is very important as well. So there's a lot of things to do, and we'd like to cement the progress that we've made, and preventing from going back to the days in the past where things were just not done correctly. So we've been able to do good. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Montiero.
All right, good evening, everyone. And thank you, HollyGlen Neighborhood Association and the League of Women Voters for hosting this Zoom debate. I hope everyone is safe and healthy out there. Hawthorne is in the mix of one of the worst, health pandemic that we ever faced. But also Hawthorne is on a crossroad of prosperity and economic development. I want to protect our prosperity for all of us, not just a few individuals who would like to control the wealth of Hawthorne for themselves. As your champion of integrity, Hawthorne needs a mayor like me that can advocate for our common interests with business, with leaders, as well as the county, the state, the federal government, without intent of personal gains. For these past 5 years, Hawthorne has not been in the spotlight of go-getters of big business deals or development with high-paying jobs. Yes, we had a few openings, but these are not enough. We must work together for change and prosperity for all of us. We cannot go back where few individuals control the wealth of Hawthorne for themselves. So we need to make sure that prosperity will be for all of us, not for the few individuals that would like to control Hawthorne. Paying no sector of the economy, manufacturing, and sector. Owning their own home. We must advocate for smart, affordable housing. We must transform our police department from a tactical force into a more peaceful conflict resolution with all aspects of culture, sensitivity, training, inclusion, compassion, and understanding of the social dynamic of our community we serve. I am your choice for a better future of Hawthorne for our children, for our struggling families, seniors, and veterans.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we're going to start with the questions, and they will have 1 minute to answer the question. We'll start with Mr. Montiero. George Floyd's death calls for racial justice, protests, public safety, and calls for police reform have been a hallmark of 2020. How would you approach calls for racial justice to the police department you'd oversee as mayor? Ms. Montiero.
Thank you for the question. Of course, George Floyd was a strategy that we need to understand, there is some bad apples on a police department all across this nation. Yes, we need to transform our police department because we know that we're not perfect. But our police department have done an outstanding job in our community by bringing coffee with the cop, bicycle policing, community policing. Our parks has been safe for this past 5 years. So we have done an outstanding job with our police department. But yes, we do need to transform our police department because I want them to make sure that they adopt the campaign zero. That is about 10 strategy that de-escalate situation. We don't want them to be a tactical force. We want them to be more like a conflict resolution that de-escalate action and make sure that we bring more also social programs to our neighborhoods and communities.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Vargas.
Thank you for that question. I really appreciate that. And I think it's a very important question. And the death of the killing of Mr. George Floyd was tragic. It was awful. It was disgusting. The whole country, the world was, sickened by what they saw. And police officers and law enforcement and public safety as well. It's a shame. They recognize that. And of course, we do have a great police department. There's no doubt about it. And there's been lots of successes and a lot of community outreach that they've done that have said, like the Coffee of the Cop, which my colleague mentioned, and different sports programs. But of course, there is always room for self-examination, self-improvement, continuous training to make sure that the sensitivities are in place at all times. New considerations that our police department has to consider. So that's why I'm happy that I'm working with them and endorsed by the Police Officer Association.
Thank you. We're going to start the second question with Mr. Vargas. How would you balance your donors' interests and the public's interests in your decision-making? Well,
absolutely. The first, my mother has been a donor. Local businesses have been donors, local brother, my sister, friends, and local businesses as local people who are building within the city of Hawthorne, just as for many of, actually some of the candidates running for mayors are developers themselves and have properties here within the city. So it's very important that the question you always ask yourself at every decision that you make, how will it benefit the greatest majority of Hawthorne's residents, if not all? Okay? Not everybody's going to be happy with the decision, but there has to be a criteria which you use that helps the majority of Hawthorne's residents and as the entirety of the city as well. So that's the question you always have to ask yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Montiero.
We can't hear him. You have me on, we need to unmute him.
Okay, can we start again?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. My campaign is a grassroots campaign. I don't have a lot of money. I know not 250,000, not 200,000. I just actually, most of my money came from my own loan. I took out of my 401k to run my campaign. And I keep saying Hawthorne is not for sale, okay? Because we have individuals that have raised a lot of money and they on this race just for themselves and family interests. So I am a man of integrity and I'm not gonna let nobody buy my vote. I'm here for the people. I'm the mayor of people. I've been in this city for 22 years, advocate for the people of Hawthorne, for the families and children. And I'll continue to do that. And that is my priority.
Thank you very much. We're going to do question number 3, and we're going to start with Mr. Montiero. High density housing has become a focal point of this campaign. 1, what's your position on high density housing? And 2, do you support or oppose building high density housing on either the RFK hospital property or the old S&W towing lot? Mr. Montiero.
Well, the answer, no. I'm not for density apartments and housing. I'm more for smart, affordable housing. I'm willing to provide and vote yes on mixed-use developed that have condominiums and townhomes for sales. I want to make sure that housing on those mixed-use is 60% and 40% commercial. We cannot afford to go back to dense populated because Hawthorne is already dense populated. We have 72% renters. So on a 5.9 square mile, only 27% are homeowners. So we cannot build more apartment buildings so dense. I'm for, like I said, smart housing, affordable housing that will give people some rental relief because we cannot afford all these big monstrous apartment that's been building like on Crenshaw and on Rosecrans.
Thank you. Mr. Vargas.
This is a good question. I really appreciate you guys asking that. I am against high density housing, but I am for intelligent, affordable housing that helps the community. We do have unscrupulous developers here within the city of Hawthorne that historically, through the previous administrations, just built whatever they wanted, however high density they can make it, with no consideration for parking, with no consideration for city services that are need to be provided to those residents who live there. And that's very irresponsible. And those are decisions that were made unscrupulously by previous leaders. And so that's why I've said, let's think about this, make sure that these developments proceed and are built of high quality, that they have an element of commercial mixed use if we're going to proceed, and that it benefits the community, not hurts it.
Thank you. Okay, the fourth question. What is your position on Hawthorne's utility users tax, Measure UU? And we're going to start with Mr. Vargas.
Okay, so I'm unmuted. Okay, so one of the things I want to let the community know is that I don't like taxes. I don't want taxes to be raised, but there is the UUT tax has been put on the ballot for you, the residents, to decide, to see if an increase in your utility tax is something you want. This is not a decision the city council wanted to make. So this money would be earmarked for emergency response services. If you as a residents feel that this is something that we need, go ahead, please support it. If it's not the right time for you, we'll understand. But an extra dollar, a few dollars on the tax bill in order to be prepared for the future, I think may be something that might be worth considering. So that's my position.
Thank you, Mr. Montiero.
Okay. All right. Yes, definitely we know tax our community is not the answer, especially because of this pandemic. We have a lot of families out there that are struggling. But we understand that, Hawthorne is one of the lowest tax when it comes to the utility tax. I understand that it's a burden for our families and for our residents, but we know that, tax is not the solution to increase revenue for our general budget. But like I said, the people of Hawthorne is going to decide. So if they say yes, we go. If they said no, we'll stay the same.
Thank you. Question number 5. What can you do to help HollyGlen get a sound wall built along the west side of the 405 freeway? Caltrans has already approved it. We're going to start with Mr. Montiero.
Well, yes, definitely. I'm all in favor of that because, since I got elected 2 years ago, I was the one who put the left turn lane on Aviation and 135th going south on Aviation. So I the one who advocate for that, and it came through. So the sound barrier, it is a must, and I will do everything in my power. If we need to bring money from the federal government, and you guys know that I have a very good relationship with the Congresswoman Maxine Waters. I have a good relationship with my counterparts at the county, at the metro, and some other transportation. We need to bring more Measure H, Measure R dollar to build that wall, and we will do it.
Thank you. Mr. Vargas.
Well, I mean, as you stated, I think the way you pose the question, it's already been approved. Okay, so that's of course that's something I think is necessary there because being adjacent to the freeway, we need some of the sound protection, of course. So what I would do, along with my colleagues or myself, is be able to reach out to our city manager, to whoever our Caltrans partner and contact is, and just making sure that we stay on top of that so that indeed we get something that gets built in a reasonable amount of time and it just doesn't get postponed. So staying on top of that issue for the residents of HollyGlen is what's most important.
Thank you. We're going to do number 6. It's a little long, so I'm going to read it. Hawthorne City ordinances were changed to only require notice to neighbors within 200 to 300 feet of large-scale installations like the electric billboard on Rosecrans. HollyGlen residents were not sent written notice about the installation of the gigantic video advertising that blasts images that can be seen for a half-mile away. 1, are you in support of making it easier to build these visual encroachments by not requiring notice to HollyGlen neighbors? And if not, will you remove city ordinances so that HollyGlen neighbors will be notified of these massive commercial advertising installations? We're starting with Mr. Vargas.
Oh no, this is a real important question because I was opposed to reducing the size of the radius of notification about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I was one of the people that was kicked and screamed about that because I said, you know what, there's issues where when somebody wants to build something that might be questionable, and residents that are around might not get to hear about it. I mean, it's going to be it's not a good thing. So sometimes within that radius, there might not be any homes, but it might be right outside that radius that there's residents who are going to be affected. So I would like to expand the radius of notification and at the same time, notify the neighborhood association that's responsible for that area so that they can get an opportunity to notify the residents. It's not about just meeting a standard. It's about letting people know what's happening in their side, in their part of the community. And so we need to make sure that the residents have the benefit of knowing what's going on.
Thank you. Mr. Montiero.
Thank you. Actually, that's a great question because, yeah, we need to be more vigilant when all these ordinance and resolution comes, especially when they come from the planning commission, right? That we need to make sure that the people have the voice there on the planning commission meetings to voice their concern. Because like Mr. Vargas said, we need to increase the length of the notice, maybe up to 1,000 instead of just 300. Because Hawthorne is a small city, is a 5.9 square mile. So everything impacts us, especially, people along the freeway and on the 405 and HollyGlen. All of us have, we live here. It's a city of good neighbors. So we should take care of each other. So we definitely have to make sure that if we need to change the ordinance, I'm all for it. Change the ordinance and increase the notification.
Thank you. And number 7. What is your plan to deal with vacant homes generally and the Hawthorne Mall specifically? We're starting with Mr. Montiero.
Again, that's a great question. So yeah, that has been a dinosaur in our, in our city for almost 25 years. And I was one of the people that I believe, we need to take that property by eminent domain because Omega Bay have spit in our face, have not done anything. So we have gave him so much opportunity that he have walked away. So my plan is in January, I will create a citizen for the Hawthorne Mall that I'm going to put the mall on the ballot in 2022. And we're going to take that mall by eminent domain because we are tired of Omega Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Vargas.
Absolutely. And just like Councilmember Montiero, we were all taken for a ride with the owner of the Hawthorne Mall. It's a big disappointment. We're disappointed. He's a bad partner. He's not a partner. You know, he's thumbed his nose at the city after promising us he was going to build an outlet mall, units of business office space, and we compromised with him in giving him residential units that he was going to build, about 600. So we compromised and he still decided not to build. So that's a big disappointment for us. Everybody on the council at that time, including Councilmember Awad, Councilwoman Valentine, Mr. Nilo Mitchell, and Miss Angie Reyes-English, who were on the council, we all celebrated that. But then he thumbed his nose, didn't dig, it didn't start breaking ground, etc. So I agree. If there's a way we can get that property with eminent domain, I fully support that. We have to have the money, though, to be able to put up so that we could purchase it. So whatever we can do as a city to do that, I would like to support that.
Thank you. This will be the last question. Question number 8. What plans, such as affordable day camps in the summer and internships for adolescents, do you foresee starting for the youth in our city? How can the city of Hawthorne work closer with our local school districts to improve the educational and job opportunities for our youth? Mr. Vargas.
No, that's a good question as well. And our youth are extremely important for all of us. We do have a great partnership with the South Bay WIB. So that's one that we need to take advantage of so that we can offer increased programs. I also have a great personal relationship with all the superintendents with the school within the area for Hawthorne School District, Wiseburn, and with Centinela. So those are people that we can bring to the table, come up with ideas. There's different jurisdictions with different pots of money. So putting money together to be able to do this is something that's realizable. We could do that. And we at once had a summer camp, which we had to sell as a city because of the malfeasance of previous administrations. We lost it and we sold it to a private owner. But there's no reason why we can't return to the days of old, where we had some summer camps. We had after school programs. We do have a youth center, but we can return to an expanded program. I think we can do that at this time.
Thank you, I'm sorry, Mr. Montiero.
Well, yes, definitely, as a city, we do not control the school district, but we have to build relationship with them to make sure that we bring internship to our city. And I've been doing, internship for the college and high schools from 20 years back forward, so all kids, they are our future, and we need them to make sure that they are trained for the workforce, especially in technology, innovation. So we need to be able to create career tech with them in our city, with the South Bay WIB and all the 5 school districts that we have in Hawthorne, because kids during the summer times, we need to embrace them. We need to give them something to do so they will not be on the streets. And we need to give them opportunity to get some jobs and make some money because, college is expensive. So we need to help them out.
Thank you. Now the candidates will make their closing statements for 1 minute, and we will reverse the starting order. So we're going to start with Mr. Montiero.
Thank you. Again, thank you, HollyGlen and the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. I am your Democrat candidate endorsed by the LA County Party, the Congresswoman Maxine Waters, the Hawthorne municipal employees. We must reclaim Hawthorne for all of us. We have individuals here that are running for their family interests and friends, not for all of us. Hawthorne is not for sale. So please vote for equity, vote for equality, vote for middle-class expansion, vote for homeownership, vote for affordable housing, vote for good-paying job, vote for public safety with more diversity, integrity, and less bias. It would be an honor to gain your vote and support. So vote for Alexander Montiero for mayor. I'm the second on the ballot. To learn more about my vision and goals for Hawthorne, please go to my website, www.montero4mayor2020.com, and God bless and good night.
Thank you. Mr. Vargas.
Well, I just want to let you guys know that, after years of corruption, we've turned the city around financially. With now the city is there's where people are proud to say that they're from Hawthorne, that they live in the city of Hawthorne. We have substantial reserves. We've increased our reserves 600% from when we were in the hole, and we're functioning with the resources and integrity, to serve the residents as they deserve. We're out of the news, of course, of the scandals that at least one of my opponents is creating, in time for the election. But so I just ask you to please join me in keeping the city of Hawthorne on track. I'm here to serve you, born and raised here in the city of Hawthorne, 49 years of my life. My friends are here. My family is here. My church is here. I'm looking forward to raising my children here. And the city of Hawthorne matters to me. I'm not here as a stepping stone to higher office. I'm here to stay in the community and to serve the community and make sure the quality of life is improved for all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Candidates, if you haven't done so, would you please add your information to votersedge.org/California, and voters, if you haven't done so, would you go to votersedge.org/CA for information about the candidates. It's an excellent website. So thank you very much, mayoral candidates. We're applauding. You can hear me, but I don't know if you can hear everybody else. But thank you again for participating. And we're moving on to the city council.
Okay, imagine this is the part in our live version where we reset the stage. So, our host is going to probably mute the video of the Alexes, the team Alexes, and I just really want to thank both of them for participating in our forum. I'm trying to track all of our city council folks. I think they're going to be brought on by video. I see Mike, I see Luis, I see David Patterson, Amie Shepard, and Angie English. I think I've got you all here. And let's see, let's do a real quick mic test with everybody. So I'm going to sequentially unmute mics here. I'm going to start with Mike Talleda. Mike, do you want to check? Mike, can you check your mic? Going to ask you to unmute. Let's see.
Okay.
All right.
Now,
Test.
can you hear me?
We got you good, Mike. Thank you so much.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Luis, I got you next on my panel here. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Luis.
Hello, hello. Check, check.
We got you good, Luis. Thanks, bud. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Let's see here. Mr. Patterson, sir, I'm going to you next.
Hello, can you hear me?
I got you. Thank you, Ms. Patterson. All right, Ms. Shepard, you're up next on my panel here.
Oh, for Amie.
Okay, gotcha. And I think Miss English, let me find you in here. I lost your tile, just bear with me. Let's see. I saw you and then I lost you. I apologize, Miss English. Let's see.
I see her.
Okay, let's see. Can somebody unmute? If you can unmute Angie's tile, that would be great. Miss Reyes-English, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, I can hear you. Oh, good. I got you. Thank you. Okay, I think we're all reset. I think Miss Arlo is going to probably go over some stuff with our candidates, and then we'll get ready to fire off in our city council race. Ms. Larlo, over to you.
All right. The city council candidates you've already heard are Angie Reyes-English, L. David Patterson, Amie Shepard, Mike Talleda, and Luis Duran. Did I get everybody's name correct? If not, will one of you fix it?
We're good.
Oh, good. Just in case. All right. The candidates are going to start with opening statements, and we're starting with Angie Reyes-English. You have 2 minutes.
Hi there. I'm running for giving a voice to Hawthorne. For the last 2 years, the residents of Hawthorne have received absolutely nothing. Homeless has increased. Our streets are filthy. and there's been no aggressive, let alone progressive efforts on behalf of its current administration and leaders. So I've been asked and I've been encouraged by voters to run again, and hopefully I can make a difference with my experience and longevity. So I look forward to this debate this evening, and look forward to speaking more on my candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is David Patterson. I'm your city treasurer and obviously a candidate for Hawthorne City Council. I'm endorsed by the Democratic Party, the LA County Firefighters Union, as well as Assemblywoman Autumn Burke. The people, first elected me city treasurer in 2013 and re-elected me in 2018 by an overwhelming majority. I'm really proud of the success we've been able to create from the treasurer's office. We've massively increased the return on our investments, moved from $12,000 a year to over $250,000 a year in return on our investments, help contribute to increasing the cash on hand, and save the city tens of thousands of dollars in banking fees. But there's just only so much I can do from the treasurer's office. So I'm asking for your vote for city council so I can strengthen our finances even more, fight for economic development, as well as prioritize investing in our community. It's time that Hawthorne had quality businesses, restaurants, shopping, places for people to come and spend money. And we need to prioritize putting our money into the community, whether it be helping our veterans, our seniors, clean streets, safe streets, investing in our parks, creating a dog park, making sure that our renters assistance program is expanded, even creating a down payment assistance program for our would-be homeowners. I believe I'm uniquely qualified to serve the community at this point in Hawthorne's future. Hawthorne historically has balanced its budget by laying people off, raising taxes, cutting services. It's time that we take a different approach, that we be proactive in bringing in business, bringing in finances, and prioritizing that money is invested in the community. So I ask for your vote for Hawthorne City Council.
Thank you. Ms. Shepard.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Amie Shepard. I'm your neighbor and a longtime resident of the city of Hawthorne. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the HollyGlen Neighborhood Association, and all the residents for your participation tonight. It's a really important election year. We have a lot of huge issues like homelessness, pandemic closures, school closures that are affecting our community. Tonight, I'm asking for your support as a campaign on a business-driven economic plan for the city of Hawthorne. This is not policy that I wrote myself, but rather a community-driven plan that was put together by the residents, and it's called the Downtown Hawthorne Specific Plan. This is a plan that Mayor Vargas himself campaigned on 5 years ago, but has failed to bring to fruition. Even after canceling the election, appointing his own friends, extending his own term, essentially putting all the resources that they needed with this current administration in position to get things done. They just haven't done it. This transformative plan is outlining major business development along Hawthorne Boulevard and Imperial Highway, and it's an economic response to the SoFi Stadium and the Clippers Arena and other regional changes. It's hard for me to listen to people talk about the mall owner when I can look around and see developers taking action everywhere. It's not the mall developer himself that's the issue. It's how we negotiate as a city. We negotiate in bad faith by imposing moratoriums on development, by increasing parking restrictions, by implementing a design review in the middle of developers' plans. The Downtown Hawthorne Economic Plan is a plan that introduces high-paying jobs. It demonstrates our economic prowess in the region, and it creates an equitable housing market. My name is Amie Shepard. I'm asking for your support tonight because I believe that together we can rebuild the city of Hawthorne.
Thank you. Mr. Talleda.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Councilman Mike Talleda. I was appointed to the council a couple of years ago. I was born in Cuba, came to this country in 1962 with my family as refugees. I graduated, I grew up in North Torrance, graduated from North High, went on to El Camino College, and I got a real estate license. And in 1976, I came to Hawthorne, and I've been in business in Hawthorne now for 40 plus years. I started my own real estate company in 1980. I grew that from 400 square feet to about 7,500 square feet. So I know the city quite well. I've had the privilege and the opportunity to serve in several commissions, including the Planning Commission. I spent 4 years on that. There was a lot of discussions that I've heard already tonight about notification and high density. I was always against the high density and the practices of some of the developers. As a matter of fact, that very controversial project on Crenshaw, I voted no against that. I didn't think that was good for the city. I think that that opened up the door for a lot of developers to do the same thing. There's a lot of bad practices that I saw in the Planning Commission, and I want to correct that. We have a lot of problems in the city that we have to address, serious problems. We got a homeless, people shouldn't be living like that. We've got public safety and affordable housing. Affordable housing is something that we really have to work on. So I'm grateful. I appreciate the opportunity to be of service, and I plan to be very engaged, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done.
Thank you, Mr. Duran.
Thank you, HNA and South Bay League of Women Voters, for having me. I'm going to talk a little bit about who I am and my qualifications. Again, my name's Luis Duran. I was born and raised in Hawthorne. My parents have been here since the 80s and we never left. I attended Lawndale High School. I attended undergrad and graduate school where I earned both a bachelor's and a master's in environmental studies and had a focus in urban planning and long-range planning. I currently work for the LA County Planning Department, working on long-range development plans, ministerial permits, and discretionary permits for the unincorporated areas. Since I work for the county, I'm basically working on any projects that the Board of Supervisors wants done. I prepared multiple staff reports for the board and the Planning Commission, so I understand the clear, well-researched information that staff needs to provide to decision makers for them to ultimately come to a decision. I've had to do public outreach for projects where I participated in and led public meetings and open houses. So I understand the role of planners and what they do to engage a community and update them about a project in their neighborhood. I've also been a part of the public hearing process, so I know how much input is needed from residents of a community. All of that helped me learn how projects ultimately happen in a jurisdiction, from the initial motion to the final construction. And I haven't just been on the presenting side, I've also been on the other side of that. I'm currently on the South Bay Service Council for LA Metro and have been there since 2017. Metro's local councils are there to hear issues and input on trains and buses in the area and to make recommendations to the main Metro board. On that council, I've worked alongside some elected officials from Hawthorne's neighboring cities. So I'm no stranger to a council meeting and making motions and receiving reports either. I have no sponsorships, no donations, no ownership of any entities in Hawthorne, so I have no reason to be dishonest with the citizens of Hawthorne. I'm just a resident who's watched how local politics work for a number of years in the county as well as Hawthorne my entire life, and I feel confident that I would make the right decisions to help as many people in Hawthorne as I can. Thank you.
We're going to start with question number 1. How would you balance your donors' interest and the public's interest in your decision making? We're going to start with Mr. Patterson.
I'm running to represent the community, not anybody else. My campaign's supported mostly out of my own pocket, as well as friends and family. And I do have some support from some local businesses as well. I'm clear with everybody about my stance. I got involved in Hawthorne politics to make the community better, not because I have any kind of political agenda, any kind of plans of being some big time politician. I decided to get involved in Hawthorne politics. I saw there was a need that my skill set can be used, right, to make the city better. So I appreciate the support of my donors, and I do understand that they're donating to my campaign because they believe in my vision for the city.
Thank you. Ms. Shepard.
Hi, Hi, thank you. This is a great question. As a professional real estate agent, I actually have a lot of conflicts of interest that I have disclosed fully on my financial forms, including the Form 700s and the Form 460s. Because I'm a real estate professional, because I have development clients already, the law stipulates that I'm not going to be able to vote on anybody's project that's compensated me. So the same people who are making donations to my campaign are the same people that are paying, my commissions outside of elections in my normal day-to-day business. So that actually alleviates me from a lot of the conflicts that people are accusing me of, because I just won't legally be able to vote on these projects. In terms of development, as I said in my opening statement, I am directly aligned with the community-driven plan called the Downtown Hawthorne Specific Plan. This is not something I've created. It's something we created as a community, and it's something I plan on charging forward day one. And I appreciate that there are residents that think that I have some illicit business here, but I don't.
Thank you, Mr. Talleda.
Mr. Talleda, you're not muted. You gotta unmute yourself. Sorry.
Let's try that again. I look at the project. I spent 4 years on the planning commission, and I see special interests trying to push their way around or their weight around. And I don't think that would be any problem whatsoever. I mean, most of the money in my campaign is my money. And I've gotten a few donations from friends and a couple of local business people that probably are more afraid of my opposition than anything else. And so I don't see any issue at all in making the right decision. I felt very strongly about a project on Crenshaw. I voted against that. I was the only one. I have a history of standing up to things that I don't agree with. So I don't think that would be a problem with me at all.
Thank you, Mr. Duran.
Thank you for that question. I don't have any donors. I don't have any donations, so that wouldn't be an issue. I'm running my campaign just out of my own pocket, and I believe that any resident of Hawthorne should be able to make the decisions on where the city goes. There shouldn't be special interests involved. There shouldn't be companies involved or any, people say, oh, you're in the pockets of developers whenever anything happens in any city, but I have none of that, and I just want to be able to represent for the people and make a smart choice. I did want to point out that, like I said, I've worked for the county, so when I wanted to run for city councilman, I asked the county, and they said it was okay because I only work in the unincorporated areas. But if there was a project in, say, Lenox or West Athens, I would obviously recuse myself, and I don't think I have any issues there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes-English.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I'm running to give voice to the Hawthorne residents who have been overlooked and underrepresented. And this has been for the last 2 years that I've witnessed this. My former council member and city clerk, my full-time job in the city of Los Angeles, my 700 forms, my 460 forms are all available. It's all transparent. It's all available to the public. Like my counterpart, Mr. Lewis, I have to get permission to run, and there's no conflict of interest. In my years of being on the dais with the city council, if there's ever been a conflict of interest, there's always been discussion with the city attorney who has advised me and has given me counsel on whether or not I could vote on an item. And those times when I did not vote on an item, I was taken off the dais, gone to the back, and after they voted, I've come out and been able to participate. So there is no conflict. Everyone that has run for office here in Hawthorne has received money from everybody. Nobody can say that they haven't received money from nobody, because they have.
Thank
in
you.
one way.
Question number 2. At the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, do you think the city did a good job of clearly communicating its position in regards to the wearing of face coverings at essential businesses? And what could have been done differently to better protect the many retail, grocery, and drugstore workers who suddenly found themselves on the front lines as essential workers? And we're starting with Ms. Shepard.
Thank you. No, I think we've had a horrible response to COVID. I think you have mayoral candidates that opened their bar without permits and spread COVID. I think you have council candidates that were playing baseball at the park with their friends. I think nobody was wearing a mask, and I think it's ridiculous. We have businesses like Flights and Coast Fitness that haven't been closed the entire time of COVID, and they're super spreaders. And I'm sorry, but right now my son is at home all day by himself because schools are shut down, because grown-ups don't want to act like grown-ups, and they want to continue to operate like we are taking away your personal liberties by asking you to stay home and stay healthy and keeping the marginalized residents and the at-risk residents from getting sick. And I think it's ridiculous. We've had zero response to COVID. It's taken 6 months to get anybody even having a discussion about rent assistance and relief. And even then, it's only $1.7 million affecting less than 600 families out of 84,000 residents in Hawthorne. So no, we did not do a good job. We did not listen to science, and we are not there yet.
Thank you, Mr. Talleda.
Everywhere I go, everybody's got a mask on. You know, I think that the city and the county sometimes have been a little heavy-handed, and they've almost put a lot of people out of business. Olivia Valentine and I have always wanted to change the look of the boulevard and have more outdoor dining, and I've been going around and encouraging people to do that. But I think that, you know, a lot of our businesses are on the verge of closing down. And so I don't really see that we've done a horrible job at all. I think that we've done a job pretty much like everybody else, because everywhere I go, they got a mask on, and the markets. And what I really like seeing is the restaurants putting tables out there and having people, you know, getting out there and enjoying a meal. I think that we have to really do everything we can to help these businesses survive, because once they go, they're gone. And so that's kind of a big deal. You know, I got to stop.
Thank you. Mr. Duran.
I think the city did a good a job as anyone could have at the time. I remember like late March when everything happened, even down from the feds, it was kind of don't wear a mask, do wear a mask. It's airborne, it's not airborne. And we were getting directions from Fauci and from LA County, and it was just all confusing at the time. But since then, I feel like everybody has just kind of put on a mask. I know people are going out more and more during the summer, but you know, I hope everybody just continues to stay safe. And Hawthorne did the best it could have at the time with the information it had.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes-English.
The city of Hawthorne could have done a little bit more. There could have been an 800 number so residents could call. There could have been an outreach effort from the city of Hawthorne asking residents how they're doing and families. I think it's amazing that the former city council is saying that they did a good job when they actually didn't even want the COVID testing site here in Hawthorne. I think they were afraid themselves to contract it, and I think it was a disservice to the people of Hawthorne. We could always do more. We could always do better. There's resources and information that could be provided now to the community of Hawthorne, because COVID is going to continue, and we need to be able to be ready. And emergency preparedness is something that I've always worked on, and I've always championed. And I think we missed the mark, including emergency preparedness for epidemics such as we have today. And as former experienced in emergency response and other outreach to communities, I think that's something that needs to change, and I hope to do that when I become council.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
So I believe that Hawthorne could have done a better job at communicating the need for masks and just communicating to the public. But I think what this really does is underscore some philosophies that the city has and needs to change. Hawthorne needs to be proactive, and we need to increase our communication in the community. So the city took more of a let's see what the county wants to do approach and follow what the county wanted to do. And I believe the city got behind the county 100%, but Hawthorne needs to be proactive in making its own decisions to keep the community safe and support our business community as well. Communication to everybody is paramount, especially to our business community, and being proactive in finding solutions to make sure our businesses can stay open and stay in business. If all our businesses go under, then you'll see the city asking to raise taxes again. We need to empower our business community so that obviously our city stays beautiful, but of course we can continue seeing revenues from those businesses operating.
Thank you. Question number 3. What can the city of Hawthorne do to attract more movie and TV production within the city? And we're starting with Mr. Talleda.
One of the problems with the mall was that the owner of the mall was able to subsidize and keep it closed because of filming inside the mall. So I don't necessarily think that, that's such a great idea. It just prolongs the same thing with the hospital site. Movies, if they want to do it out in the streets, we've always done that. But a lot of the filming that we've had in the city has been inside the mall, and that mall was never meant to be a film studio. It was meant to be a retail place, and so anything that prolongs that, I'm against that. So I think that we can allow it on our streets and in restaurants, but not in the mall, and that's where most of the filming had been done. That in the old police station. And in the hospital. So no, it'd be great to get the revenue, but not at the expense of the people in Hawthorne.
Thank you, Mr. Duran.
I'm not sure if filming in Hawthorne is the greatest idea. With filming comes all of the trailers and everything with that, and with us being impacted by parking and traffic already, all those trailers will just make it a headache for everyone. If filming is to come, I would hope there would be limits on it, maybe 2 weeks at a time or something less, or just figure out the right timeline for the type of project they're doing. Maybe it's a commercial for a day, maybe it's a 3-month movie, who knows, but make sure they go through Film LA and make sure we have in the code written the proper time for these types of productions.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes-English.
I work in the city of Los Angeles, and I work on a regular basis with Film LA. I've always heard from Film LA, and even today, how difficult it is to work in the city of Hawthorne, let alone to get permits so that they can film here in Hawthorne, the permitting process, just everything in general, from use of the Hawthorne Airport to other places that have been featured in movies. I think it's sad because it's a revenue source for Hawthorne. It's extra time for our police officers who are hired to be on site to secure the perimeter and the process of filming in Hawthorne. I think the city of Hawthorne current administration has missed the mark when it comes to bringing revenue to our city, jobs and creation of jobs. It's shameful because you talk about bringing dollars to Hawthorne and bringing streamlining, but there's nothing that is being done that reflects that. So again, Film LA, a great organization, and wants to do work here in Hawthorne, but again, we're a no.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Mr. Patterson.
So the answer to bringing more film work to Hawthorne is the same answer to how do we bring more businesses to Hawthorne. Hawthorne fundamentally needs to change its philosophy around business. Hawthorne is just not business friendly. All the businesses that I've talked to who've opened up in our city in the last number of years have all talked about how hard it is to open a business, to get permits, the fees, the taxes, all that stuff. Our philosophy has to change. Our priority has to be allowing businesses, good businesses that we want to see in our city, come into our city, open up, serve the community, and generate revenue. I agree, though, that the priority probably should be bringing more retail, shopping, dining to the city as opposed to more filming, but they go hand in hand. The problem why we don't have more filming is the problem why we don't have better businesses and more businesses is Hawthorne needs to be business friendly. And we need somebody at council that understands the language of business, right, to help make that happen.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard.
I concur 100% with Mr. Patterson and Ms. English. It's really frustrating to hear some of my being business and being obstructionist again and again. We see Raleigh Studios, Manhattan Beach Studios, right down El Segundo in Manhattan Beach, down Rosecrans. And it's not necessarily that the mall owner and the hospital owner love to do filming and want to do filming. It's that they've been stopped at every turn from getting their projects done, and they don't have a supportive business environment. And Mr. Patterson hit the nail on the head. I brought 3 new businesses to the city of Hawthorne in COVID during a pandemic when everybody else is closed down and shutting down, and we're still waiting on business licensing. It has to go through 7 different departments just to get a license to open a business. And that includes if you're an Avon or Mary Kay lady. It's ridiculous. Our stagnation with business is because we keep electing people who are obstructionists, who don't have business experience, and who don't know the language of business in the city of Hawthorne. So vote for Amie Shepard because we're bringing business back.
Thank you. Question number 4. High-density housing has become a focal point of this campaign. 1, what is your position on high-density housing? And 2, do you support or oppose building high-density housing on either the RFK hospital property or the old SNW towing lot? And we're starting with Mr. Duran.
I don't think there should be high density housing at RFK. Just with the character of the neighborhood, it's single family homes, pretty low. So I mean, I would think it should be affordable townhomes, and that the city should work with any developer who would want to do that to make sure the money was right as far as the pricing on, conditional use permits and permitting, so they could do that. The reason everything's so expensive to build in California is because of the land and the permitting. It's ridiculous. So the city would have to work with the developers on that. As far as high density, I mean, no one wants 25-story buildings, but you do need units for workforce housing. The whole city can't be single family residences. I know it's not, but if there was a place for 30, 40 units and it made sense, I think we would do it. You can't talk about housing the homeless, but you don't want to build housing. So. Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes-English.
I support all housing, from mixed use to mixed development to home ownership to condos. I think it's important. We missed the mark many years ago with regards to housing. Now we have a housing shortage. Now we have homeless. Now we've got unaffordable rents. People can't afford their rents, especially during COVID, and that's a shame. It's my understanding the hospital is being leased for hospital use. It's no longer for a housing development. And the property on Rosecrans that's already been developed and has been permitted, I think it's already a done deal. So, with regards to folks talking about home ownership, where are you going to be able to afford a home here in Hawthorne at $800,000, $900,000 for a 2-bedroom home on a radius of 6.1 radius here in the city of Hawthorne? Where are you going to build homes, and how can people afford these homes when you won't even provide jobs or business opportunities here in Hawthorne? So it's shameful.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
So I'm going to be very, very clear and transparent. I'm not a fan of more high density housing in the city of Hawthorne. I just got a call this morning from a resident who is in a large monstrosity on Chadron and talked about just how poorly run it is. We all know how that it's these large residential developments that are exacerbating our parking issue in the city of Hawthorne. The first order of business to fix the parking is to not have more high density, no parking buildings in the city of Hawthorne. And so I'm a big fan of economic development. I think our priority needs to be bringing businesses, needs to bring restaurants, stores, opportunities to bring in tax revenue. Hawthorne has a lot of renting opportunities in the city. I mean, we all know Hawthorne is famous for having apartments in the city. And so, just to finalize that question, like high density housing I'm not a fan of at all.
Thank you. Ms. Shepard.
Sure. So to be clear, With the exception of the Crenshaw project, every single high density project was approved before I even came on the scene in 2015. I was a luxury real estate agent over in Manhattan Beach selling mega mansions on the Strand. The reality is, the more demand that we have in Southern California, the more home prices are going to go up. The reason we have a quadrupling of the homeless situation here in the city of Hawthorne is because we've taken an absolute stagnant approach to development. We don't want anything. We have politicians tonight who are pointing fingers at me, saying that I'm, in the pockets of developers, when the reality is everybody here, with the exception of Mr. Duran, has taken something from somebody who builds an apartment building. As it stands right now, the RFK Hospital, because of my efforts, because of former Councilwoman Angie English's efforts, because of Haydar Awad's efforts, working with the developer, that parcel has abandoned its residential plan, adopted a medical usage plan, and it's currently on the market as medical use. So Amie Shepard does not always believe in high density housing. I'm fair and balanced.
Thank you. Mr. Talleda.
In the 4 years that I spent on the planning commission, every project came up was a high density project. And staff would say, well, there's nothing we can do about that. The problem with the property on Crenshaw is that it just blew off all the regulations. And what the developers are waiting for, the real problem is that we never wanted apartments here. We didn't want any more apartments. We wanted home ownership. So they started to build condos, but what they did with the condos is they didn't sell them. And that was the purpose of why we approved the condo project, even with the high density. So what they ended up doing is they ended up renting them. So now what do you got? You got a brand new condo that's being treated like an apartment, rented for $3,500 a month. And all that does is it increases rents, creates a lot of problem. And that's what that was the main problem with why I voted no on the Crenshaw project, because how easily they change the code with a specific plan, and they're going to do that to the JFK. I have no doubt about that.
Thank you. Question number 5. What is your plan to deal with vacant homes generally and the Hawthorne Mall specifically? And we're starting with Ms. Reyes-English.
Okay, so back in the day, we did support the Hawthorne Mall for development, and I laugh today because Vargas led the effort to include 600 units of housing on top of the mall. But you know what? At that point, I think everybody was desperate. I think what needs to happen with the mall is ultimately the residents need to find one voice, and I think the city has to support that voice. And I think ultimately we need to look at legal remedies for the mall. What those remedies look like, I don't know, but I do not support the mall as it is today. I put policy when I was on the council to charge the property owner fines for the overgrown vegetation and the blighted way in which it looks today. It's a disgrace. I live behind the mall. I see it every day. Its use right now for Amazon and Tesla is shameful. He's making money off of those corporations.
Thank you.
Pocketing his money.
Mr. Patterson.
So this Hawthorne should not tolerate blight in the city. So this is whether it be vacant homes, but especially when it comes to this mall, we all know it's been vacant for 20 plus years. The parking lots is being rented out to other businesses. It does not contribute to the city in a responsible way. And so I agree with what the mayor candidates are saying. We need to find the route to force a sale on that property or take that property from that developer. It's just not, we shouldn't be casual about it. It shouldn't be allowed. We should not be doing business as usual where we have this monstrosity in the middle of our city, bringing down values and hurting our boulevard. And so the path forward is not through that mall, but that is a strong part of any success a city's going to have is getting that mall handled.
I'm going to repeat the question only because there's a second part that I haven't heard. And the question is, what is your plan to deal with vacant homes generally and the Hawthorne Mall specifically? So we're going to go on with Ms. Shepard.
I'm unaware of any vacant homes. This is one of the hottest real estate markets that I've ever seen, even in the middle of pandemic. I just called an agent today about a house that was for sale and she had 18 offers on it. So if somebody's sitting on a vacant home, chances are they just don't have the money to do the rehab that they need, or they don't need to sell. I don't see this as being a problem or a contributing factor to homelessness. I think it's affordability. In terms of the mall, I absolutely fundamentally disagree with eminent domain. I think that this would open a floodgate for the city of Hawthorne to come in and affect personal property. I think that my opponent in 2015, Councilmember Awad, who's not here tonight, laid out a blight tax plan that he's actually implemented. And I think this is going to be great leverage when I get elected and he's elected to get in there and force the sale of this mall. If the mall owner likes our development strategy and wants to get back in line with the downtown Hawthorne specific plan, I'm all for it. And I have some major questions. Why did the Gabays feel like they needed to get to the point of bribery?
Thank you. Mr. Talleda.
I don't think there's a problem with vacant homes, and I think that Amy's right about that. This is a very hot real estate market. I think our real problem is when they take these properties that submitted as condos and they turn around and rent them and create more apartments. I think that's a problem because they go in with the idea that that's what they're going to do and they don't sell them. And what we want here is home ownership, not more apartments. As far as the mall, you know, the guy's got legal problems right now, and I'd like to see anything over there that makes sense, and a combination of residential and we've lost $10 million in revenue because of this COVID. And so we need to have retail because that's one of the ways that the city gets revenue. So, you know, we're finding that guy $3,000 a day, the owner of the mall, and he's using it for. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Duran.
Thanks. As far as the vacant homes, I haven't seen any in Hawthorne. It's not like there's a bunch of abandoned, boarded up shacks or homes or anything. It's selling a lot. There's a lot of offers on homes out here and apartments. I'm sure anybody can find, it might be hard to find a place, but there's, you know, not too many vacant ones. As far as the mall, from what the property owner, I've heard, it's only hearsay, but he, you know, only wants to settle for a certain type of development. We're going to have to pass some type of ordinance to raise his taxes until it's not viable for him to continue paying taxes. If $3,000 a day isn't enough, I mean, maybe you tax it by parcel size, or if you have a parcel that's over the certain size of his mall, you know, he'll have to pay taxes or something, because we need to get moving on that. From everybody I've talked to, everybody wants something there. It can't just continue to be an abandoned mall forever. I know it can't be luxury housing, which is what I've heard the property manager or property owner wants, but we need to start moving fast because some people want something there.
I've lost all visual things, so I'm going to have to do this by listening to everybody. So I don't know what happened, but we're going to start with question number 6. In Hawthorne's 2021 budget, the city allocated approximately 49% of the city's general fund to police. Do you believe approximately half of Hawthorne's general budget should be spent on policing, and why? And we're going to start with Mr. Patterson.
I really appreciate this question. There's been a lot of complaints about how our police department's been funded over the years from the community and from, honestly, some staff. I believe the answer is to make our budgeting process a lot more open to the community. We involve residents, businesses, city staff, city manager, and the city council to contribute to making that decision. The way that the taxpayers' money is spent should be decided by the taxpayers. And so we absolutely need public safety, but we need to prioritize investing in our community. Right? The way that we reduce crime is by investing in after-school programs and investing in opportunities for jobs. That's the secret long-term. So I'm very excited about the idea of getting everybody's input to identify really what the city's priorities should be and how we spend our money.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard.
Sure. So I think in a normal city, police operating budget should be somewhere around 30 to 35% of the city's general fund. The issue that we have in Hawthorne is we faced structural deficit, in our budget for, decades. We've only shored this up under Mayor Vargas with heavy taxation. We have a sales tax, we're putting a utility tax on. We have several, school bonds and measures that were implemented just to keep us afloat. So when you have a business-friendly environment where corporations are paying their fair share, like SpaceX and Marriott, and they're not getting these sweetheart deals, the general fund grows and the percentage that we have to give to our police shrinks. I'm with David Patterson. I think some of these early prevention programs are the key. I think a livable wage is the key to end crime. I think things like Youth Explorers we need to bring back. I love the bicycle program. I love Coffee with a Cop. I'm a supporter of the police department, but I also recognize that there are some issues in the national spotlight of police brutality, and we need to invest heavily in diverse training and hiring practices.
Thank you, Mr. Talleda.
Well, that's always a subject about the police and the budget. First of all, almost every police department surrounding cities has the same percentage of the budget going to policing. Policing and, safe neighborhoods and being able to walk around and exercise and walk your dog and feel comfortable in your own community depends on what kind of a police department you have. And I think that Hawthorne has a great police department. They're innovative. I'm sure that they can learn and use best practices, but I respect the police, and I am very appreciative of the work that they do. And they have to do the tough jobs, and part of their job is to run into a place and be the first guy and maybe give up his life. That's a big responsibility. But the reality is that almost all the cities have about the same percentage of their budget going to policing. And, I got endorsed by them too. I really like our guy.
Thank you, Mr. Duran.
Thank you. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked to know that it is 50% of Hawthorne's budget goes to policing. We absolutely need public safety. Every city needs public safety. But like Mr. Patterson said, it should almost be up to the taxpayers on if they want to fund that much. When you see the parks budget or the planning budget, I think the planning budget's like 0.3% or something like that. And parks isn't that much bigger. So I believe we should ask the residents, is there a way to sacrifice some maybe materials, not man hours, or something that the police have? If you could get the white painted curbs like they have on 134th, would you, go for that? So I think there should really be a public choice of where the budget is spent in regards to public safety. Because when is it going to go up to 55%? When is it going to go up to 58% of our budget all goes to public safety and policing?
Thank you, Ms. Reyes-English.
The question was whether or not we agree that half of our city general fund monies goes to fund the police. That's the question. It's not whether or not we have a great, team of police. We support the police. We all support the police. We all support public. They also get, make over $100,000 a year in revenue, while our other city departments and workforce are making very less than that. I think we need to audit the police department. I think we need to audit all of our city departments to see exactly where all of our money is going to. But you will find that most of the money, yes, is going to the police. And I support the police, but I would be wanting to do more to address why half of our budget goes towards the police. And I think an audit should be made.
Thank you. Now the candidates will make their closing statements, and we will reverse the starting order and start with Mr. Duran. 1 minute, please.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to my stances today. As I said, since I work for the board, I know that in local politics, someone is always affected. Nothing's a clear and easy choice, but my goal, if elected councilman, would be to make sure that a certain group or certain area of Hawthorne isn't always getting the short end of the stick. When dealing with politics and budgets, it's always a give and take, and I just want to be transparent and clear in who's doing the giving and who's doing the taking, and ensuring one community or group doesn't take a lot more than they should. I want to make the most equitable choices I can for any current projects if I'm elected, and want to have equity in mind with any future projects or motions that I make. If you have any questions, you can email me at ld4hawthorne@gmail.com. And I also wanted to plug that we have a Metro South Bay Service Council meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. So if anybody's interested, you can ask me for the link. And thank you all for your time and inviting me.
Thank you. Mr. Talleda.
Well, I've been in this town for over 40 years. When I started, the houses were 50,000. Now they're 1 million. I've seen a lot of change. I think we're headed in the right direction. I've had the privilege to serve the community. I've been on the planning commission, and I've seen a lot of things that I would like to change. I'd like to push a little more on home ownership. I'd like to change the look of the boulevard with more dining outside. I'm very grateful to the people of Hawthorne. I'm hoping that they'll bring me back for another 4 years. And I'll be honest with you, just if you want more information, go to mytalleda.com, and on November 3rd, put a vote down for common sense and good leadership.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard.
Thank you again. My name is Amie Shepard. I appreciate you listening to my policies tonight. I just want to remind everybody that we have a plan in place already. It's been in place since before Mayor Vargas was elected. It's still there for us. We can still do development in the city of Hawthorne that's business driven. It's led by the community. It's not over density housing. We can create an equitable housing market. We can create high paying jobs. We can bring people into our airport who are coming to look at SoFi Stadium, and we can keep their economic dollars here so that we can keep our taxes down. I want to remind everybody that I'm not the only person taking contributions from developers. It's talked about a lot. Home ownership programs are talked about a lot, and I've got career politicians running against me that have done nothing to implement these plans. My name is Amie Shepard. I'm a real estate pro. I know how to create an equitable housing market, create a strong business dynamic, and to get the city back on track. On November 3rd, please vote for Amie Shepard, and together we can rebuild the city of Hawthorne. My website is voteforamie.com.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the community for hosting this forum. I'm really excited about this upcoming election because the decisions that we make is going to determine the direction we take our city. And there's so much economic activity happening in the community. It's really time that Hawthorne participated in that. I believe I'm uniquely qualified to support that process, not just my years experience as treasurer, but 20 years experience as a financial advisor and business consultant. I'm getting my PhD in business psychology as we speak. But more than that, though, I come representing the citizens, right? I'm not representing any special interest group, any developers, any factions, any crew or any of that stuff. I'll join the council, being able to work with whoever the community wants to elect. We've seen this in the past, so all this fighting on the council doesn't move the city forward. And so I know how to work together as a team, right, to bring results for the city of Hawthorne. I'm really excited to do so. You can check out my website, davidpatterson2020.com, if you want to get a little bit more information about my campaign.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes-English.
Thank you, HollyGlen, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity. Former city clerk, former council member, elected city clerk, elected council member, endorsed by the Democratic Party, endorsed by COPE, that is the Federation of Labor with 800,000 family members. I am the most progressive, aggressive when it comes to addressing real issues at hand that matter to the people here in Hawthorne. I'm talking to voters and I'm hearing that they're being underserved. We have homeless, we have dumping and trash, we have this city looking a mess, and no one is addressing it. We have COVID issues that are concerns. We have police issues of concerns. And while the city council that we have today chose to sit behind their offices and closed doors, not to, answer the people of Hawthorne with concerns on policing matters, which I hope to address, bringing community policing, bringing senior lead officers, bringing more community relations with the police. I want to be able to address the root problems of homeless as a caseworker.
Thank you very much. And thank you, candidates. If you candidates have not done so, would you please add your information to votersedge.org/CA? And voters, would you go to votersedge.org/CA for information on the candidates? And one last thing, and that's the census. It's really important. Remember, it's been extended out, even all this fighting, to the end of October. Each person, starting from the day they're born, if they're living in a residence, whether they are immigrants or not, it counts as $10,000 per person that will come to the state. $10,000 per person. It's really important that you contact as many people as you can and make sure that they have filled out the census form. And thank you again from the League of Women Voters. I cannot see anybody, but it's all yours.
Yes, thank you. Can I first, Barbara Arlo is a treasure of our South Bay community, and we thank her. And I can say without reservation, I think there's some national moderators that could take a lesson from Barbara Arlo. So, Barbara, I'm going to clap on behalf of a grateful community for your work.
Thank you.
I want to thank each and every candidate for participating in this. We really, truly appreciate all of your commitment to this community, to standing for election, to, as Teddy Roosevelt said, getting in the arena. And we appreciate that you want to make this community better. And I want to thank each and every one of you for participating. For HollyGleners, I did put up, whilst Ms. Arlo was talking, if you got your neighborhood newsletter, you have a code that you can scan to register yourself for the census. It is incredibly important for our democracy that you register. There's commitments as a voter, as a member of a jury, and as a census responder in terms of your citizenship. So we hope you take that brief time to participate in your democracy and get yourself counted and your family counted. So it's very important to our community in the state of California and our country that you are heard from. In closing, I want to thank all of the HollyGlen residents and the rest of our neighbors around Hawthorne for participating. For HollyGleners, we hope you can have some patience. We were trying to work through some events, and with COVID, we're still kind of getting our feet beneath us. So stay tuned to Nextdoor and your HollyGlen representatives on the neighborhood council for updates on those events. Finally, I want to again let you know in the chat box, www.cityofhawthorne.org/voting, to assist yourself, get registered, and get out there and vote. Thanks again to everybody for participating tonight. We really do appreciate your time and your commitment to being informed voters in this election. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night.